but your Sarah married twice is what the situation was.
Yes, she did. And she had 2 daughters, and her grandchildren live down in Bidwell, where I do. And we discovered each other at the Emancipation a few years ago. And the fellow that had the, whatever his name is, he's going to be there this year.
Oh, good. Frederick Douglass.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I'm going to Stevens reunion or down there.
When is the emancipation?
It's usually around the 22nd
Of September.
of September, one of those Saturdays. I don't know the exact date yet.
Well, I like to make those. You ready? You ready, folks? No.
Yeah, you're ready.
What?
You ready?
I've been recording this. I thought this was part of it.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's all right. The Barbara Scott is one of the people that I
Yes.
like to talk with down there, so she has a lot of history too. But anyway,
I know Barbara
you know
Scott.
Barbara?
Yes.
are you related?
I'm probably related to her too, because she's from that area where our neighbor that I grew up with, more or less, was from. Her mother was from there, and she was married to a Johnson, and we're sort of related. Everyone that lived in that area practically was related in some way or another.
Talking about the house, Underground Railroad house, did you hear of anyone ever helping any slaves escape, black or white, people helping slaves to escape?
In regard to the railroad house, the Underground Railroad down there, I don't know of any specific names or anything. I just know that people came across came across from West Virginia, and they were escorted up to the home above where I live, to the Underground Railroad. From there, I don't know where they went. I don't know where they were taken to after that.
Did you hear about any Underground Railroad sites in Nelsonville area?
I don't know too much about Nelsonville and its history. I'm pretty sure that there were some, but I have no names or anything. I have looked at the diagram that they have down in southern Ohio, and I have copies of it, but I don't know, the people there or anything.
How did you feel when you were older and you started looking into your history and finding out about your Native American history and finding out your Native American relatives were part of the Underground Railroad? How did that make you feel to look back on those memories as a girl and think you looked through those places and it was a place where people maybe were on their way to freedom?
When I really realized I was grown, before I really realized that all of this took place right in the area where I lived. It wasn't discussed. Underground Railroad was never discussed in school because it was a predominantly white school, and it wasn't in the textbooks or anything like that I got a hold of. I just got bits and pieces, and I felt like something was missing in my life, because I had the Caucasian, I had the German, I had the Indian, and Dutch, and this type of thing, and so I just thought, gee. So when I went to my first powwow, and I saw the dancing and everything and the drums, I got the weirdest feeling, and I thought, I really think I found a niche for me in life. I love everybody. I mean, it doesn't matter to me what race or what nationality or anything, as long as I treat them right and they treat me right, I'm a happy person.
I know you're a happy person, because I tried to give you a hard time when I first met you. You said, no, I'm a happy person, I'm happy. So that's a positive sign. Are there anybody in your family who you feel influenced your life more?
I dearly loved, well, I loved both of my parents, but my father has always supported me in what I did. They helped me with my schoolwork. I was able to do things, not all the things that the other girls and boys did because I lived away from the school. I rode 26 miles a day to and from school, and I lived about 7.5 miles. So we started before daylight, and we got home, it was dark in the winter. But my father did, and I liked public speaking, and I started at a very young age speaking in front of the organizations there, the Grange, and I remember my first speech, and Mother laughed because she said, there you were, and the table just kept moving down the aisle. But I did a lot of plays and things like that. And in high school, I didn't take part in the acting, but I did have a monologue between each of the sections of the play. And I really loved it. And then there was the radio show that I was chosen. They chose 5 students from top students from each school. And I was one that got to go, and I won. So I was like the quiz kids were later on. But it was interesting. We were on the radio down there. But I even enjoyed school.
Did you write your own monologues?
The monologues, I look in books, and sometimes my music teacher who was in charge of them, even when I wasn't even in that grade, the juniors and seniors, I was in 9th grade or 10th grade, and I was public speaking right then, but I loved it. And I'd memorize, and my dad would go over, and that's not right, now you say that right, and he really did. And Mother too, they both influenced me. And I remembered, memorized it all, and I loved it.
Good. I think I've asked most of the questions that concerned me that I wanted to cover. Are there anything that you feel that we might have left out?
Not really as pertains to my life. When I was grown, I did work in Columbus with the United States government, and also with the state of Ohio, and with an insurance company. And I've really enjoyed it. And then I moved back home, and it's really nice. It's really nice.
I was just curious about, until you learned about your Native American heritage, what were you considered in your community, or what did you consider yourself? Because I think that's a story a lot of people have here. Talk about the
When I was growing up, it was kind of a mixed thing with my father and his people who were considered Caucasian as their birth certificates read. There was none that said they were Native American. And yet my mother, her birth certificate said Caucasian too, but mine didn't. But it didn't bother me because I don't see strangers. But just, unless they made me angry or called me names, and I've been called names, but, it was difficult living in such a different, where there was not a good mixture of different cultures there. But I was accepted just about anywhere I went,
What was on your brother's birth certificate?
My older 2 were black, my younger one was white.
And how did they come up with that?
Well, my mother was married twice to a Stevens, and they were actually, the 2 older boys were my half-brothers. We never talked half-brothers, we were brothers and sisters. And my youngest brother has the same father and mother that I do. but I was born in Nelsonville.
Dr. Do?
Yes, and my father delivered me. The doctor came and he said, oh, she has a cold. And my grandmother says, yeah, here's the cold. And I would have already been born. So I always thought that was funny, you know. Yes.
What was on your birth certificate?
My birth certificate says black.
The doctor just.
And I hated that. I would rather they'd put anything but that. They could have put colored. I wouldn't care. But at that time, I just didn't accept it, but I just didn't. And every time I'd fill out papers, I put other.
What do you consider yourself?
Well, I am registered with the last census as a Native American. And I have my number, I have my card, and I'm Assistant Secretary of the Saponi Nation of Ohio.
What do you think people can get out of seeing the Lett family and seeing its multicultural heritage and seeing how you're all connected and that rich history?
When I look at the Lett family, it brings so many of us who are really second cousins, third cousins, all kinds of people. And yet we just come together and we just sort of grow together. And the 4 years, this is my 4th year, and I've really, this time has been even better than the others. It's just wonderful to see so many people that I am related to. And everyone seems to be so friendly. I just think it's wonderful that people can do that. And I wish people all over the world, and even in the United States, could be like that. Because I don't see a stranger. I never do. I've been told that I was too friendly and all this, but I don't think so. It gives me peace of mind that I am who I am, and that's the way I live.
Can you just talk about how you're all connected, maybe by the differences, or despite the differences, because like across.
Oh, I have relatives that still live in Ohio, all over Ohio. And each year I find that I have more relatives, even living near where I live, that I didn't know I had. I didn't know we were related. And of course in Michigan, I found them about 5 years ago. And I've been up there, I've been clear to Remus, to the old settlers reunion. And I plan to go back again probably next year. We've been invited, my husband and I have, Kenneth, and I have been invited to go to the senior citizens up there and do something with them for the Native American part. And I'm living it up to the fullest. That's right. I really am. But it's good because when I come in here the first time, I didn't know hardly any, not too many other than just a few of my close relatives. But now, I'm just finding everybody. Wherever I go, and I do go to a lot of reunions, and I'm finding relatives, and it's just beautiful. I just love it.
Excellent, excellent job, fantastic.
I have a quilt that was made up in northern Michigan for my grandfather's sister. I still have it in 1902 with all the different names on it.
Fantastic. If you ever come up to the MGC to give a talk, bring that quilt with you.
I sure will.
We had a quilt program last month. And that's another story, but all kinds of quilts showed up and histories behind the quilts.
Yeah. Well, these have, and a lot of the people right out here, their relatives' names when they first saw it. I took it to the Johnson reunion. I took it to the Harper reunion, because I hosted that down there. And that's where I met Ada and all them. Ada and